What's up, everyone? My name is Jesse, and this is VGM Vibes 2. Today, we're going to be talking about a certain theme in video game music, and those are battle themes, which is kind of vague, but I'll explain as I go along. We started with forest themes, and that had some good reception, so I got a bunch more ideas. We're going to go into battle themes. These are not going to be boss fights, and they're going to be just kind of a little of different genres of games, and per usual, I like to... It's a mixed bag of games that I grew up with, games that I played because of the channel, songs I just heard on the channel, or recommendations from you, or in this case now we're doing votes, which will be in there later. And yes, this is MS Paint because, you know, I'm cheap. But that's it. You know, battle themes are something that are very important, obviously, in games, no matter what kind of game. They are meant to be looped over and over and have to keep the listener engaged. And you're probably going to hear them more than any other song in the game, at least in a JRPG. But it's a fascinating theme, and I think everyone can relate to having a favorite battle theme. I have many, but we're going to start with, we're going to pull no punches here. We're going to start really iconic with something that I grew up with that kind of shaped my love for battle themes, starting with the Nintendo. All right, we're starting off with one of the most iconic, I think not just for me, but for many people around the world, battle themes. This is the trainer battle from Pokemon. Let's just call it Generation 1, red, blue, yellow. I own the yellow version, and this also made an appearance in the last VGM Vibes. I think we're going to see returning games in a lot of these because they're that iconic. But this one is just kind of in a league of its own. It's a variation of the kind of wild battle theme, and also a variation of like the gym leader battle theme. But one thing I always found fascinating about this battle well, all of them, but really I just had to pick one. But this one I've always liked because of the slightly more intimidating version than your standard battle theme is, and this goes for pretty much a lot of the Pokemon Gen 1 soundtrack, is there's no percussion in these, which I find kind of, you know what I mean? Like, it's so pulsating with energy and emotion. You feel like this sense of urgency and rush and stress, really. But there's no percussion, and yet it's still like slapping so hard. I think that's quite genius in the composition style of Junichi. And you know, it's something that shaped my love early on because I did not own many consoles growing up. I just had a Sega Genesis and a Game Boy Color, and this is one of like 3 games I owned for it. But man, did I spend a lot of time with Pokemon Yellow, and there's so many songs I could talk about in this game, but we're keeping it to battle themes. And it's kind of funny that I'm talking about this right now because I just came home from buying a Switch, which is behind me somewhere, and I'll be playing another Nintendo game that may or may not be featured in this video later. And it's just kind of come full circle. You know, I haven't owned anything Nintendo since 1998, and now it's 2024. So anyways, I just wanted to gush about all the battle themes from Gen 1, but I just really like the trainer battle, and yeah, iconic, straight up iconic. Up next, we're going to be talking about a game called Cosmic Star Heroine, where the song is called Battle of Conflicts. This is a song I reacted to here on the channel, and it kind of blew me away when I heard it. It was requested by an old member named Turn Arclight, which they had something to say, which I'll read in a second. But also the composers and developers saw that video and both commented on it. So if you wanted to see that reaction and see what they had to say, it's like the 2 pinned comments on top. And I think that was like Hyperduck Soundworks. Yeah. So this song, you might recognize it just by hearing it. I've used it as background music for my own videos for a long time, for many videos, and for good reason. It stuck out when I heard it, and it's a really just good sounding song that I feel like music lovers can appreciate of any genre. Everything sounds so crisp and clear. The drums sound amazing. If you're a fan of bass, the song has amazing bass. And organs, everyone loves organs. I know I do. And let me just read what the requesters said, which I have not read until right now. Battle of Conflicts from Cosmic Star Heroine is just cool. That might sound like an oversimplification, but it's just cool. It sets the stage to just make you, the player, feel cool. It's energetic, slightly hard-boiled, and for a game in which the battle system revolves around building up your character's turns and letting loose when the time is right, the song's progression of building up and blasting off coincide with it brilliantly. You're kicking ass and looking cool doing it. Oh, I did not know that. So that is pretty cool. And let me read a brief message from the composers themselves. It says, "Hey Jesse, thanks for featuring a song of ours, and thanks to Turn Arclight for requesting this. I really love that you felt needed to hear it more than once." I think that was the goal for us when making it. It is a battle theme, you are correct. And as with any music, a battle theme, unless you've made a whole bunch, tends to get played in a game a lot more than other tracks. So I think with that in mind, we wanted to make this song interesting enough to not end up grating on anybody as they play through the many battles in Cosmic Star Heroine. And hopefully give the player something to peel back from each time they heard it. We actually put 2 versions of this song in the game, and the battle theme is rearranged to start from different sections of the song and loop through in a further effort to just squeeze that lemon dry. Definitely a fun challenge to try to give one song the strength to go the full distance of the game. So yeah, I pretty much agree with everything there. It's one of those songs that definitely, I listen to hundreds and hundreds of video game songs all the time, and for some to stick out, it's pretty special, and this one definitely stuck out. I don't know anything else about this game. I never played it myself, and I've only heard this one song, but it's a really damn good song, especially that break in the second half. And if you're a fan of like Nobuo Uematsu and Motoi Sakuraba, you'll really kind of fall in love with this one. So that is Battle of Conflicts. But speaking of Motoi Sakuraba, next. Up next, we're going to be talking about a song called Isaac's Battle Theme from Golden Sun, a video I just put out, and this was voted for actually. So the way this one worked, this song was already like pending, outstanding as a video for me to react to, and I went on Patreon and asked everyone to vote for the next song to be featured in this video that you're currently watching for battle themes, and this one won. So it got its own video, which is pretty much like right before this one that you're watching, and I've heard it now like maybe 4 or 5 times since then. I also heard it along with the main battle theme, I heard it with the main theme as well. And let me see what. So far, the comments, it's still a fresh video. There's a bunch of nostalgic comments in it. Like people, like actually just now, I'm literally just got a comment like a minute ago. It's getting popular. And from the commenter or the requester themselves, they say, "The battle theme is so good. It's one of those tracks that never left my memory after playing it, and I'm glad I'm not the only one who kind of clung onto it as one of the really good battle themes. I love Isaac as a character, and I really want him and his battle theme to be in Super Smash Bros. But yes, it is Isaac Battle because there are actually multiple normal battle themes across the 2 GBA games, depending on who's in your party. Because I do remember asking that. I was like, why is it called Isaac? Is there other battle themes? But this is the only song in the whole video that I have the least experience with. I just heard it, but I've heard it a couple times. I've heard it while doing chores, while going out and doing stuff, and just kind of like having it on the background. And I noticed it gives me sort of these same vibes I got from Symphony of the Night a little bit. It sounds like a lot of games at once. It has this very progressive kind of ongoing energy that I really like. It's very loopable. It's like a perfect loop. And I think what really stands out for me is like the little horn section. Dun, da, 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 da. But other than that, I know nothing about Golden Sun besides the songs I have heard. And what I could say though is, again, the composer Motoi Sakuraba is someone who I had no idea who they were not too long ago, and now I'm starting to not only become a fan of theirs, but also recognize their work, which is pretty cool. I never thought I would recognize anybody's work, but also the sheer variety that this composer can do. It's really impressive, and especially how long they've been doing it. This is from, 2001, And apparently on the Game Boy Advance, something I did not own, and that still blows my mind that the sound quality was like that good, you know, especially because we were just talking about the Pokemon Yellow on the Game Boy Color, which is right before it. And even though that sounded good too, you know, the huge quality difference from that to the GBA was, as you can hear here, is pretty intense, to put it lightly. But yeah, I do agree with the sentiment of everyone else that this is a pretty cool battle theme, and I will even go a step further and say it's kind of like a quintessential battle theme. You know, it's kind of got like that tempo. It's got the feeling of getting pumped up. So even though I'm totally new to this, it is a pretty cool song. And I don't know Isaac, but they seem like a pretty cool badass to have a song like that. So that is Isaac's battle theme from Golden Sun. Up next, we're going to be talking about a game that I know absolutely nothing about besides its title, Neo: The World Ends With You. And man, is this game popular. People talk about this game all the time. The song's called Breaking Free. And from what I'm seeing in the credits, that it was composed by Takahiro Ishimoto, the lyrics written by Mas Kimura, and the English version sung by Matt Furda. Now, when I first heard the song, this was actually requested by a friend of mine, like someone I know in real life. And, you know, just I thought that was kind of a neat thing. I don't ever do that, but it's one of those instances. But I actually really like this song. I haven't heard much of The World Ends With You at all. But I remember this one standing out for one big reason. It's unbelievably catchy. It's such an earworm. Just, you hear it once, you hear the chorus, and you're like, oh, they're gonna look at me. And I'm like, damn, dude. That is such... It reminds me so much of, like, when I was in high school, and this was, like, kind of the... It is kind of weird, though, because I feel like this song... When was this? This was 2021. I feel like this song came out, like, 10 years too late. I mean, that's still cool, though, but... This was like the sound when I was in high school, this kind of like emo pop punk type of thing. It reminds me a lot of two songs actually from Trivium's Ascendancy album. That's Dying in Your Arms. It sounds a lot like that. And also, oh my god, what's it called? Like Light to the Flies. And also sounds like the band Shadows Fall as well. And just all those bands from back then. But the thing that I found interesting about this is it's very much like a radio hit. Like, you would never bat an eye that this came from a video game. It sounds like it could just easily fit into like a movie soundtrack, a game soundtrack, anything. It just sounds incredible. And apparently, according to the fandom website, the song can be interpreted as the feelings of a troubled, insomniac, and insecure young man trying to regain control of his life, realizing his self-worth, and as well as breaking free from the expectations put on him by society. Something that a lot of people can relate to, especially like a young teen. I'm not sure what... I mean, by looking at this, it looks like maybe the character roster in this game are kind of like in their teens or something, so it kind of has like that youthful look. But either way, I just know that this is a battle theme, and it's a very appreciated game, and it's one of the catchiest songs I've ever heard. Probably ever, so that's why it's here. So let me know more about The World Ends With You, or Neo: The World Ends With You. But yeah, that is Breaking Free. Alas, we can finally talk about Yakuza 0, a game I played not too long ago, and it is the only Yakuza game I've played so far. And I thoroughly enjoyed this. It was such a fun, bizarre adventure of comedic genius and very serious tones at the same time. Such a bizarre mix. But Hidenori Shoji, the composer of most of Yakuza, this song can best be described to me as like just sick as hell. This is one of those songs that just sound really good in your car. You know, if you have a really good sound system, then, you know, turn it up. But this song is kind of a little bit of a different battle song, right? There's nothing really like set in stone. I wanted to be a little loose with the rules for this video. I just didn't want it to be boss themes per se. But this one is a little different because in Yakuza 0, you know, you're just walking around the open world, and then you'll get into like some kind of random encounters, and the music will change. And also, if you change your stance, the music will change. This is one of those songs where the music never changes. So it's kind of one of those where like some JRPGs do it, where where like the music just doesn't change regardless of what's happening. It's like a little more serious. This is kind of like a bigger like story serious segment. I'm not going to spoil too much, but you're like running away from people chasing you and you're beating their ass. So I remember I reacted to the song and it caught my attention because of how open it was. The song is very loose as far as composition. It's just a bunch of like hard-hitting chords, and the chorus section is just even more so of that. It's just a bunch of open rhythmic chords and a little bit of like saxophone thrown in there every now and then. It's just a really awesome song that I can't really put into words besides I guess what I just said. I don't recall, but I think this might play in maybe more than once. There's a lot of music in Yakuza 0. But I mostly associate Fatal Conflict with that scene in the alleyways. And it's a really cool scene. It's a very fun scene. And out of the many battle themes Yakuza has and a bunch of other genres that they have, this was definitely one of the highlights for me. It sounds incredible. Like, the mixing and mastering in Yakuza 0 is top notch, and Fatal Conflict is no different. You might even call it rad. Man with the Machine Gun. This is one of those songs that that if I did not put it in here, the people would riot, and for good reason. I'm not going to go super in depth with it. I actually made a top 20 video of my favorite FF8 songs, and you can see how high I rank this one, and I go way more in depth there. But what I will say is that I feel like this is one of the songs you simply just cannot talk about. You cannot not talk about when it comes to battle themes. It's one of the most iconic battle themes ever, and more so the abundance of variety when it comes to Nobuo Uematsu. This man never ceases to amaze me what genres he can and can't do. And there's not a whole, from what I've heard of him and Final Fantasy stuff, there's not a lot of songs that sound like this. This is kind of one of those like one-offs that are just rare, like dance hits. And for a lot of people, this is one of their favorite sections of the game. I won't say much. And it's just iconic, immediately iconic. It's so cool. And FF8 is its own entity. People hate or love it. There's no gray area. But what is always unanimously agreed upon is The Man with the Machine Gun as one of the best songs. And the original requester had some words to say. That is Max. And he says, oh man. Man with the Machine Gun was an easy pick. That music was just something so different than everything up to that point. And it was around the time I was getting into EDM trance stuff. Hearing that song every time, I just wanted to get up and dance, and probably why I get really, really animated when I play games with good music timing. Like, it's a nerd thing, but I'll time attacks in RPGs and time it with the music and mimic it IRL. MWTMG, Man with the Machine Gun, was just something special and a crazy, crazy game. Yeah, crazy is a good way to put that game. But, yeah, I mean, I agree. It's incredible. It's an amazing song. And one of those things that, like, as soon as you hear it, people are going to start, like, putting their dance emotes. And just, it's iconic. It's great. But you can hear more in my top 20 video. And, yeah, Laguna rules. So does Nobuo Uematsu. That is Man with the Machine Gun. All right, stop what you're doing, whatever it is. Within those first 3 seconds of hearing that song, whether it's your first time hearing it or you've heard it before, your reaction is probably, oh yeah, whoa, something of an exciting, like, that's exactly what this theme does to me. The first time I heard it, I made a lot of questionable noises that a human shouldn't make. And I was so caught up in, it was an experience, man. It was an experience. I'm already a big fan of Xenoblade Chronicles music. And when I heard this, it just skyrocketed. This song is so dope for so many reasons. It's so well put together. The instruments sound incredible. The jazz swing to it. The so many melodies. This one sounded, I forgot what I compared it to when I did my reaction, but it reminded me of one Castlevania song, an iconic Castlevania song. Not really, but a little bit. Dun, 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 dun. I put it in my pin comment anywhere. Anyways, yeah, dude, I think it's hard to say with Xenoblade Chronicles because I've said multiple times like, oh, this is my favorite song from Xenoblade Chronicles. Oh no, this is, but this one's like always been consistently up there, and it's also one of my favorite videos on YouTube where you'll see Etika react to it when he was playing the game, and if you haven't seen that, I suggest you do because it's amazing. But you know, what can I say about this song? I've yet to experience it. I've never played Xenoblade Chronicles yet, but you know, if I'm hopefully. I'm guessing it will, but hopefully my experience with the first game is so good that I want to try this one, because I would play this game just solely based on this song alone. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that per se, but I'm saying it's that strong. It's such a good damn song. And what I've noticed about Xenoblade Chronicles is that a lot of their just generic battle music is some of the coolest stuff in the whole game. So, yeah, this one is by Kenji Hiramatsu, who I think they've also worked on some anime stuff, and they've been part of a lot of Xenoblade stuff too. But man, what a... I love watching like covers of this song. Like I know Joe Monthal did it. He's one of my favorite YouTubers. He's like a drummer YouTuber, and he did a song, and it's just This is a great song. You know, there's nothing else to say. Battle from Torn of the Golden Country, Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Absolutely sickening in how good it is. You might have heard of this game called Chrono Trigger. It is actually somewhat related to the past song where Yasunori Matsuda was a little bit involved with Xenoblade Chronicles. Well, he composed this one almost entirely with the help of Nobuo Matsu, but mostly Yasunori Matsuda and his first gig. So we talked about Chrono Trigger in the last video, and we're going to keep talking about Chrono Trigger in future installments because there's a pattern you're going to notice with these theming videos is that sometimes iconic soundtracks are just going to appear more than once. So Chrono Trigger is no different, but this song is, you know, I bet you as soon as you've heard the little intro drum fill, you probably already start to hum the main melody, which is da, 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 da. It's so catchy, and you hear it all the time in the game, and it never gets old. And if you're a fan of the bass like me, not only does this soundtrack provide multiple instances of bass, but in this song especially, you know, dun da 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 dun da da da, it's got that gallop going. The vocal synths are on point. The percussion is great. I just love this. This is one of those games where not only, side note, that I like the battle system, the way it worked, and like the combination of attacks. I thought that was really cool, and also the fact that it wasn't like purely random. You know, like you can see the enemies and then kind of like start a fight that way. Plus the song, it really made random encounters and fights like such a special thing in this game. And there's not much else to say. The battle theme is absolutely iconic from Chrono Trigger. That's it. That's all I have to say about this one-of-a-kind, amazing battle theme that you hear constantly over and over. But now we're going to talk about a game that is also from around the same area that I always compare these two games because they're kind of similar, and that is coming up next. Da 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 da. This is one of the coolest battle themes, and it's such a short loop too, and yet it's still powerful. Wild Arms. Now, if we were talking about greatest like intro themes, whoo, that's, yeah, we'll get to that someday. But Wild Arms is a game that came out around the same time. Actually, I have the dates right here. Chrono Trigger was 95, Wild Arms was 96. So I played both of these games like pretty close to each other, and they remind me a lot of each other. The way they look, the way they just have very similar feels to them. And this is, of course, from the composer Michiko Naruke, who's been part of the series since then and has done many, many, many games. And I love the way she writes, and it's just fantastic. This song is extremely catchy, and one of the, again, just like highlights of just getting into random encounters, which, by the way, in this game is extremely high. Like, you're going to hear the song a lot. You know, some games just have like kind of freakishly high encounter rates. Yeah, Wild Arms, it's like every 5 steps. So get used to hearing this song because you're going to hear it a lot. But that's why it's cool, because it's such a sick song. It never got old. Dun, 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 dun. I really love the story of Rudy and friends, and it's a great game. It's a really cool game. I recommend everyone who has not played this JRPG to check it out. Some of my favorite music has come from this game for good reason. And yeah, Critical Hit is just another cool battle theme. But on the topic of high encounter rates, I feel like we have to talk about this game again that was featured in the first game. We are once again going to be talking about The Legend of Dragoon, a awesome JRPG from the PlayStation 1 that needs to be remade. So, I mean, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm a really big fan of the bass, and this song is littered with bass all over the place. And fun fact, this game has at least 3 different battle themes, and I kind of flipped a coin. I did like a random number generator to see which one I wanted to pick, because Battle 1 is this one. Amazing. Battle 2, also really cool, but totally different feel. It sounds very like EDM. And the third one, which is also cool, but has more of like a Egyptian feel that you get late game. But this one, since I just randomly chose that out of the 3, it's quite iconic. You can get it really early in the game. It's one of like the first, think of it like early game battle theme. It's got that drum and bass sound, the very like late 90s sound. The bass, of course, is everywhere. And that's pretty much it. It just kind of carries the song or the feeling of the battle in such a cool way, because the battle system in this game is, I don't know if unique is the right word, but I never played a game like that where you have these things called additions. So instead of just like your attack, magic, whatever other menu, your attacks, instead of just playing an animation, you have to time the hits. Kind of like if you played FF8, it's sort of like Squall's, I don't remember what it's called, but like you hit the button and it does more damage. Legend of Dragoon is filled with that. Every attack has addition. They're called additions, and it becomes kind of like a rhythm game, and they're pretty fun. I really enjoyed that aspect of the game, and the more you unlock, the harder they get, and the longer they are. But just the combination of like that gameplay with this song, it just kind of really puts together this whole feel of the battle mechanics and the battle system and experience with Legend of Dragoon. So mix all that up with the songs, and of course you're going to have some pretty iconic stuff. So a lot of the Legend of Dragoon music is pretty iconic, but the battle theme is absolutely, all of them are. Remember, I chose randomly, but they're all pretty damn amazing. Up next, we're going to be talking about a game called Crash Bash, a little bit of a curveball here. I grew up with the Crash games on the PlayStation 1, so I had 1, 2, Warped, CTR, and of course Crash Bash. After that, I stopped playing them. And this game is kind of interesting for a lot of reasons. It's a party game, so it's a lot of mini games, and honestly would do quite well in today's landscape with Twitch streams and all that. But I really was a big fan of this game. And it was kind of different, right? It was like not fully Naughty Dog. It was, it was a different composer, which we're going to talk about right now. This was Steve Duckworth, who had big shoes to fill, right? Like Crash has kind of an iconic sound when it comes to video games, that kind of island sound with xylophones and stuff like that. And that was all from Josh Mansell. But Steve Duckworth had to pretty much take that sound and then do their own spin on it with a bunch of mini games, which are all in different locations, different settings, time periods, all that kind of stuff, and he did a great job. So this one is so the way Crash Bash works is that there's a bunch of different worlds, and each world has like their own version of a certain type of minigame, and in this case, it's the panic type of minigame where you're riding on a little, what is it, a koala bear? And you're pretty much trying to push each other off. And in this case, it's tilt panic, so it's, I believe, the first instance. It's like a ice ramp level, and it's slippery, you know, the ice physics when it's a slippery floor. It's really kind of a stress-inducing game, but the song in this one, I've always thought it was a little bit underrated. It's the whole soundtrack is really, there's a lot of character in it, right? It's kind of like a kid's game / young teen, but it's got that crash sound. But also, like I said, each mini game, depending on where it's at, like the song will fit its world. And in this one, it's got that kind of icy sound, and it's a very jazzy, actually. Like, I really am a big fan of the drums in this one. It's got a big jazz flair to it, and I don't know, it's just something that when I was thinking of games I've played and stuff I haven't heard in a while, I was like, oh yeah. And I was originally going to choose Dot Dash for this video because that's another mini game, and it's another really good song too, and it's very iconic. But I think just the idea of filling in for someone's shoes that has already made iconic music and still making it your own and really good is, it's got to talk about it. So, good job to Steve Duckworth. But I really like Crash Bash. I hope one day it returns. I haven't played a Crash game since this, which was 2000, so 24 years. I think I haven't played a Crash game, but I'm pretty sure I haven't played a Crash game since then. And this is Tilt Panic. Pretty cool song. And once again, I hope this game comes back. Up next, we're going to talk about a game called Persona 3 Reload, one of the newest titles here. It's 2024, and this is now a 2-month-old game. From what I know, this is let's call it a reload of Persona 3, a game that's a lot of people's favorites. I still have yet to play a Persona. I know pretty much nothing about Persona, but I do know that the music that I've been listening to for 2 years now has been incredible. I love all of it. And the reason I picked this one is for a very specific reason. But before I get into that, this was a new composer. Usually it's Shoji Meguro is the kind of sound of Persona, the flavor and essence of Persona. And this time it was Atsushi Kirijo. I've never heard of them, but they did a great job. And this, of course, features Lotus Juice and singer Azumi Takahashi. And it's the reason I picked it is because, like I said, I've been hearing Persona now since like the end of 2021. So I've heard kind of like the big hits and some not so big hits, but I've heard quite a selection to be like, damn, this is a really good soundtrack. I see why people talk about Persona when video game music is brought up. It's like, duh. But when I heard this one, it gave me a similar feeling to what I think fans of Persona felt. And that's like this sort of nostalgic feeling of, damn, this sounds like Persona, right? Even though I never played one, never played this one, I never stepped foot into the world or anything, it sounded like a huge callback to previous Persona games. I'm aware there's like some light motifs in there, but it just sounded like Persona. So I kind of felt this somewhat of the same feeling that people buying and experiencing the game are, but for me it's just like on the musical perspective. It's kind of weird, but also it's unbelievably catchy. It's kind of on that same realm of that World Ends With You song I did earlier. Incredible chorus. I love that you can hear Lotus Juice singing. I thought that was really neat. It's really cool. I love this song. It's an original song, a new original song, and people have been taking it in with open arms. It's already, like, as I'm recording this, even though it's 2 months ago, it was like 100K views on it. It's a really good song. But let me see what the requester said. Keats. P3 Reload is just such an inspired game. So often do we see remakes just not value what makes the original excellent, but it's so clear that the devs truly care about Persona 3, showing love to its story, its characters, its message, and of course, its music. Every new track, like you mentioned in your reaction to Full Moon Full Life, feels like it came straight from the original. And each new track is fantastic in their own ways. The reason It's Going Down Now was such a quick request from me is because for over a decade, Mass destruction was one of the most iconic battle themes in JRPG history, and yet when the fandom heard just a few seconds of It's Going Down Now, everyone knew it was going to be special. Once we heard the full version, we knew that it was going to be a track that sat comfortably in the Persona catalog, filled with catchy lyrics, badass vibes, and of course, Godus Juice himself, another common Persona masterpiece. Yeah, so pretty much what I was hinting at, like, it feels like Persona, and that's weird for me to say because I feel like such a outsider, but at the same time, I have been hearing a lot of songs from this game for at least 2 years. I know it's not a lot, but I've experienced Persona in my own way, so hearing this gave me a little bit of like what you guys must feel when you see these reaction videos. Like, hey, I know that song and this is cool. It's kind of gave me that same feeling. But in reality, it's just unbelievably catchy and it's awesome that it's a battle song. So down, 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 down. I've heard this song probably like 50,000 times. So yeah, Persona 3 Reload, awesome, and one of my favorite songs that I've heard in a long time. So as someone who's now completed Final Fantasy VII Rebirth twice already, and when people haven't even finished it once, and I also played a remake twice, and I played the original, I feel it goes without saying that Let the Battles Begin as the main battle theme is super iconic. I never once got tired of the song. And by the way, this is me talking about this song as a whole, not just from the original or the remix version. It's just the song itself is so iconic for so many reasons. The horn section, the way it starts immediately, bump, 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 ba da da da. It's just like immediately grabs your attention. And then it just kind of keeps climbing into this crescendo thing, and then eventually comes down into this horn section. I go more in depth with it when I talk about my top 20 songs for FF7, and it's in there, it ranks pretty high. But Let the Battles Begin is such a treat. Out of all the Final Fantasy games that I played, not counting Man with the Machine Gun, because that's like a kind of side battle theme, my favorite battle theme is definitely Let the Battles Begin. It's such a... It always pumps me up. It's always such a cool callback sound. And the way Remake handled it, which was the arrangement from Shotari Shima, that is such a great reimagining of that song. It's like, dare I say, like a perfect version of that song. At least, well, let me rephrase that. It's how I feel Nobuo Uematsu would have like loved to hear it back when he created it in 1997. You know what I mean? Like the horns, the big grandiose of it all. It's such a cool sound. And speaking of the remix, I really like how it's used, especially in Rebirth, because it's not like the main battle theme you hear all the time. There's so many battle themes in this game, but it shows up like a little less frequent in Rebirth, so it makes it that much more special when it does come on, because you're like, oh, there it is. There's a lot of remixes of it, and there's a lot of, it changes with like depending on certain events, but like the original Let the Battles Begin, and when it just plays by itself, it's always such a nice treat. And I feel like I couldn't have made this video without mentioning it. There's a few songs that inspired this video, and this is definitely absolutely one of them, and it is my favorite FF battle theme to date. Alright, so by show of hands, how many people just got instantly nostalgic as soon as you heard those first couple notes? I know there's people out there that are geeking at the fact that Gunbound is being mentioned. I've talked about Gunbound quite a bit here on the channel. It's a game I grew up with. I was like a wee lad playing on like dial-up, and man, this game was definitely like, it's like I don't know how to explain it. I guess it's like Worms. I never played Worms, but I guess it's like a kind of the same thing. It's like, we got little mobiles and your time, then you have to just kind of, I don't even know how to explain it, but it's like a battle game, and a lot of the music from this game is super iconic to me. I've used a lot of it in background music. But Sudden Death is so interesting because a lot of the music in Gunbound sounds kind of like Muzak, which is, think of it like loungy sort of menu, light-hearted dentist. I don't know how to describe it, but like music like that, right? It's just kind of like shopping at a mall, very cutesy and lively, and then all of a sudden, sudden death happens. So the way it works, I don't remember exactly the mechanics. It's been a long time, about 20 years, but sudden death occurs when, after so many turns of the game has been played, that the game is like, all right, let's go. We need to hurry it up. So everything gets buffed. There's like a random a buff to the stage, or something is. It's like it's meant to like let's go, let's go. So the music will go from do 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 to do 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 this, and that's when basically this song is the epitome of like shit gets real. You know what I mean? And I love it. It doesn't matter what stage it's on, or how cute the song sounded before it, or what mobiles you're using. It's just, if sudden death comes on, it's time to pay attention, and I love it. It's like the game's almost over. It's a really like pay attention to me now type of song, and I love it. It sounds unlike anything else in the game, and I Gunbound has such a soft spot in my heart for video game music shaping. I've heard these songs hundreds of times for hundreds of hours, maybe thousands, and I kind of wish it came back. I don't even know if it's still playable. It's probably like a different version now. I know it got filled with like hackers and stuff. This is the internet in like early 2000s, so we're talking like the days of MSN and I don't know, AIM, stuff like that. So a lot has changed, but this game is cool, and I hope one day it comes back properly. But yeah, Sudden Death, such an amazing song. Out of the whole soundtrack, they're all great, but Sudden Death is definitely like, all right, it's getting real, and it's time to turn up. We finally made it to the last song on this video. This is Metal Gear Solid Encounter. This song is pretty much stress incarnate. This is what it feels like to have your heart racing. This is a jump scare of a song, and pretty much the definition of like adrenaline pumping and being chased down corridors and sounds of gunfire and screams, you know what I mean? Like, it is so quintessential battle theme that I couldn't think of anything else to put here at the end. Metal Gear Solid was really special for me for the longest time, and I still sometimes feel this way. It's like my favorite game of all time. My favorite video game song of all time comes from this game. It's the credit song, by the way. And it's just holds a really special place because, it was like 1998 when it came out, and this was like playing a movie. I never played a game like that at that time. It was, what the hell, is like cinematic, and there's all these stories, and it's long as hell, and this character can read my inputs, and this dog is like, or this wolf is in love with me because it peed on the box, and all this, like all these crazy things I've never encountered. Stealth? What do you mean I have to pay attention to like corners and not being seen? I'm used to just going and running gun. Now it's all about, you know what I mean? So Metal Gear Solid is like, it's its own thing, and I played all of them except for 5. One day I'll play it, but I've always been a fan of the series. 2 was amazing. It was a huge jump. Snake Eater, obviously one of the most iconic video game songs too. Guns of the Patriots is really cool and sad and very long, but I never played 5. And I even played some of the VR missions too. But yeah, I mean, this song is just it's so iconic, right? It's like there's so many iconic things when it comes to Metal Gear Solid. There's the alert sound, there's the codec sound that people have been using as their ringtone for years. There's the credit song, there's this song, there's the game over sound, Snake, there's so many things. Liquid, you know what I mean? Like, it's an iconic game for so many reasons. Catch up, like the torture scene, which I found very easy, but people struggle with. There's so many things that can be said about this, but overall, Encounter to me is kind of like the definition of what like a battle theme entails. The stress, the you've been caught, or it's really time to pay attention now. Like, we can die right now at any moment, and it's not only just like a battle, but more like, it sounds kind of cheesy, but like an internal battle. It sounds really, really heart pumping. I envision this song playing when people are doing very extraneous activities like skydiving or something. Like, if I could hear what is going on through their mind, I would be hearing this song playing. So and then couple that with the alert sound at the beginning, and you got some of the most iconic sounds in video game history. So I'm really glad I got to talk about Metal Gear Solid. Usually I don't talk about games that I know or that I've grew up with or something like that, but that was kind of another reason I wanted to do the series, is because of stuff that I have experienced and grew up with, and I wasn't just reacting to. I know Metal Gear Solid, so anytime I get a chance to talk about things I grew up with and stuff that means a lot and shaped my love for VGM, it's always a good day. So yeah, that is my list of iconic battle themes. Let me know which ones I'm missing. Obviously, this isn't going to be like a end all be all. There'll be like multiple parts of battle themes. There's probably like 1,000 I haven't checked. But let me know what you thought of these, if you've heard any of these, if not, and which ones I'm missing. Well, maybe I'll get to it someday. But yeah, battle themes are something very special in video games and cannot be overlooked. I think the more, I don't know, man. I just think lately, video game music has, when it comes to battle themes, has been kind of a little dry from what I've heard, and I mean like really lately, like recent. Of course, there's still stuff like we just had Persona 3 and The World Ends with You that was fairly recent, but I'm talking as a whole. I feel like it's been kind of a bit of a lost art, and that's kind of a shame because some of the coolest stuff ever comes from battle themes. It's such a big moment in the game, the fights, the battles, you know what I mean, the conflict. So that's it. That is episode 2 of VGM Vibes. The next one is going to be aquatic themes. I'm sure people are already getting their pencils and comments ready for that. And I have a lot of good ones to share from my youth too. So thank you to everyone that you see here. Thank you to the voters on the Patreon. And again, you patrons can vote for what song will be featured in the aquatic one. Thank you to my platinum members. Thanks to you for watching. My name is Jesse in the Auditorium. Peace.